Welcome to the Endurance Balance. I'm Coach J.W. McKenna. Joining me are Coach Alicia Phillips and Coach Ann Sharkey. Together, we break down the 80-20 philosophy through the lens of real life. Our goal is simple, to help you fit the training into the chaos. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Endurance Balance. I'm Coach JW, and joining me at the table are coaches Alicia and Ann. You can build a massive aerobic engine. However, a brand new race course doesn't care about the perfect spreadsheet pacing targets. Today with Coach Ann, joining us straight from the ground at the inaugural Ironman Jacksonville, we are pulling back the curtain on the pros and cons of first-year events. We're breaking down the triage blueprints that you will need to protect your lodging, bypass slammed expo bike mechanics, easy for me to say, and stop logistics from sabotaging your chassis. So before we get into that, we are going to do our training logs. We'll start with Alicia. What have you got since we last met? It's been a bit longer than usual because we recorded last episode a little early. So we've probably got a bit to catch up on.
Yeah, well, from a personal standpoint, it is May, which means it is race month for me. And I will say, I feel a lot more confident. I don't know I did. I could tell you exactly what I did. I did a high rock simulation workout where we did 3/4 of everything. So, not the full distances, but 3/4 of it. So we had to run 0.5 miles, I don't know, do 500 meters. It was 750 meters of and I felt great. So I was like, okay, if I can do this, I can totally do a little bit more, rested and well fueled. I practiced my bicarb. I practiced fueling. I took a gel midway through my run, made a huge difference. And yeah, I just definitely feel it's interesting when you are in a training plan and you go you're just there's no way I can do this. And then that next week you go a little further, right? And you're there's no way I can do this. And then suddenly you do it and you're oh, so the training plan is working, right? I'm trusting the process. So I feel yeah, feeling really good from that aspect. I had an athlete this past weekend who competed in Ironman 70.3 in Chattanooga, which the swim was not canceled, which was a nice breath because I know that swim is always questionable. And his A race is Lake Placid full, so this was just a nice way to change up his training. He wasn't tapered for this race, but he still PR'd, which says a lot about what he's been doing in the off season coming into it. It was 88 degrees there, so it was super hot given the but it's expected to be that warm this time of year in Tennessee. And but he trained for it. He did some indoor rides where he just didn't turn a fan on. He did a couple sauna sessions, even just sitting in the bath nice and hot, just to kind of get that adaptation going, and fueled well. His heart rate, I will say, looking back, when I was giving him feedback, he his aerobic fitness is on point, right on track. The thing that we need to make a priority, and I'm sure a lot of 70.3 Ironman triathletes can relate to, is that strength training. So where he definitely we saw, again, this goes back to him not being tapered, fresh legs, but his muscular durability. So making sure we're still doing the calf raises, the split squats, the single leg work, that strength training component, not dropping it completely. So we're going to make sure that stays, whether it's just 15, 20 minutes twice a week, right after his, easy sessions per se. Trying to think. I have another athlete which is going to get right on par with our training today, but he's getting ready to leave for Cape Town Marathon. He's going for the soon to be hopefully 7th star, because Cape Town Marathon is in, I can't remember what they call it. Like they're on the run up to become an Abbott Star Race World Major. So he's going off to that. So it's figuring out, just flight logistics, adapting to the weather there and being able in the time change and all that stuff. So that'll be fun to report back on as well. So, yeah. How about you, Anne?
I guess we'll roll into like the rest of Ironman Jacksonville. My workout this weekend was obviously my voice has gone from screaming and yelling at not in a bad way, but like encouraging athletes all for over about 16 hours on Saturday. And I ended up getting, I think, about 9 miles of walking in, which is actually on the lower side for a Sherpa for me. We spent a lot of time in the car, which we'll get to later in the podcast. But yeah, other than that, my athlete rocked it. Kind of a spoiler alert. Great. She nailed her training. It was amazing to see it all come together. I have another athlete that's battling. She's got a couple of weeks before Omaha 70.3, and we've had a bit of a snafu with just some illnesses that have popped up. So that's going to be a little bit of an interesting go round with how we're going to navigate, what's coming up as we approach like the biggest training week of the plan. So the good thing is it's not her first rodeo, so we'll get there and kind of figure it out together. But for me, I'm a little sore from just my Sherpa duties. I texted somebody today, and my friends that I was with over the weekend. I'm like, not gonna lie, like my forearm's a little sore from carrying those 3 pizzas back to the tent because I was juggling a bike and bags, and the volunteers were like, I said, can I just have a piece of pizza? Like I had volunteered in the morning, and she's like, honey, take all the pizzas you want because we're about ready to just throw them away. So I knew I had some people that were also spectating, some friends of mine. So I grabbed 3 pizzas and walked them back to our rendezvous point, only to get back there and find out everybody had dispersed. So I'm a little sore from carrying pizzas for a mile too. But it was a blast. It was such a good time. It was really, really good for me to be back with my people and back with people who I've done so many endurance events with, and people who kind of get it. Like I laugh, and I think I may have even said this on here. It's like moving to Florida and moving to a whole new state. Well, Alicia, you and I have talked about this. When you move, it's like nobody knows what you've done before. And it's hard to explain this part of our lives to people who have never experienced it. So to be back with people who get it and who were literally finishing
You were with your people.
I was with my people at the finish line throwing up, and then they would jump back into the line to cheer on their friends. So it's a little twisted when I say it that way, and people around me who aren't familiar with this are probably like, "What? Why are you doing that?" But that just made my heart full from this week. So as a training log part, like it just my heart is full from just being around people who get it. JW, can you follow up with that? You're on mute, buddy. There you go.
We can't hear you.
We will. We'll come back to you then, and to continue on with your weekend and some of the learnings that we had. I had 3 athletes racing this weekend. So I had Camilio and Ricky that were in Utah at the Ogden Marathon. And for a big shout out for Camilio, it was his first marathon distance. Smashed out a perfect pace. Stayed to the plan, and then Ricky was kind of like pacing with him, supporting him for his Camilio's marathon distance. It was really just awesome to see that kind of athlete support. So a big shout out to those 2 for getting that done. Both come from really hot areas, right? Like Texas and Miami, and then to go to Utah to run a marathon. But that marathon, if you don't know, is pretty much all downhill. Right.
That's
So
hard.
it is if you don't train. And luckily, Alicia, you were talking about, strength trainers. I think it was strength training into our athletes' plans. And I do a lot of that eccentric loading, right? The split squats and things like that. So it wasn't too bad for them to be able to do that down. But we definitely, when I've seen it many times when athletes get into a situation like that, I see it in the trail racing community as well. It's just like, oh, the downhills are easy. Did you train for them? No, but they're downhill. How hard can they be? Like, yeah,
Any
well, and
toenails lost?
yeah, exactly. Right. Like 5 years later, I still have some that won't grow back kind of thing. Right. And it's nuts. So, no, it was really good. They both were very, very happy with that. And then we had Matt, who did the Black Squirrel triathlon, but he did sprint distance. And I encourage athletes, and we try to pick races like this one, because he in 4 weeks has which one is it? I want to get it right. Rockford, the Ironman Rockford 70.3. So we use these smaller low-key events for them to go and just practice everything. Test as a training, are your zones right? And so Matt had excellent discipline throughout the whole race. We came down and said, we're doing everything, zone 2, maybe a little zone 3 on all your distances, and maintain that. You're not there to podium or anything else like that. We're testing the fuel, we're testing the hydrations, your transitions, everything, right down to logistics that we're going to get into here shortly with new races. But some of these logistic things we're going to talk about are very real to any race that you go with, especially triathlons, where you've got more than just your sneakers that you have to kind of pack with you for the event, right? But he smashed it out, feeling great. And so congratulations to those athletes. Here in Canada, it was May long weekend for us, so Victoria Day. And it was interesting for us because, we talk about it all the time, but, chaos of life and pivoting in the training plans. We booked the site, canceled it, rebooked another site, last minute canceled it, and we ended up doing backyard camping this weekend. So set the trailer up. Runa had one of her friends, Braylon, over for the whole weekend, and they decided, it's no friends, we're camping, nobody knows we're here, and it was really cool. And the reason why we had to do that is here in southern Alberta, you get a crapshoot what the weather's going to be, and of course, paying for the sites and then having to pull out and cancel them with all the fees and everything. It was a tough decision. But then in hindsight now, we're looking, there was like over a foot of snow at both places that we had booked and pulled out of. That to me would not have been great. We had far more fun in the backyard, fire pit still and everything. So just chaos of life. Right. This is what we're all talking about, our training. Jess went out, got her long run in. So it was only, 3.25 hour long run, I think it was. Cold rain, got her done. Right. Just fitting it into the chaos, and we just adapt and make things work. So, but a big shout out to Matt, Camilio, and Ricky on their accomplishments this past weekend. So, moving along, we are gonna pick up where Anne was talking about. What was the race? Which one? Jacksonville.
Ironman Jacksonville, yeah.
Jacksonville. And it was the first inaugural race for them, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Do you think it'll be the last?
No, I don't think it'll be the last. I think usually Ironman sign like a 5-year contract. Not that, but I hope it's not the last. They did such a good job with the event in general. An inaugural event, I'm not going to lie, I tend to steer away from them because there's always some sort of madness that happens. And there's always a lot to learn for the next year. So shout out to Ironman Jacksonville. They did a phenomenal job. There were some logistic issues, like it was a split transition area. So the swim entrance obviously was like upstream from swim exit, which makes complete sense. The river was rip roaring fast. I mean, it was
I saw
crazy.
A preview and there was like an alligator in the river, and
you know what?
Like...
That was not. That could have been any body of water in Jacksonville or Florida in general. So it's funny because when I got to Jacksonville on Friday morning, my athlete Stephanie was there and she shows me the picture right away. I'm like, yes, just put it down. No, like don't even play into that and then somebody else had posted a picture of an alligator right by the Ironman village in the bushes. I'm like, also, no. They would have come and removed that thing so fast. But that river was rip-roaring fast, but it was also very dirty. So, before I get to split transition. So logistics were a little bit weird, because you're starting at a swim down or upstream, you're swimming down, you're getting your bike from one area, bike out, and then, the finish line is in a completely separate area. So, that was a little not easy to navigate for a lot of athletes, especially if you're flying solo. Like it was not good. I don't know if there's a way that they can make it work because anytime you have a river swim, you got to go like one direction, obviously. So hopefully they figure that out. River swim, it was great swim, super fast. Stephanie was telling me at one point, there was a guy that was sitting, like she went to take a breath and he was just kicked back. The water was so warm that wetsuit optional. So wetsuits went at the end. So this guy was kicked back, hands behind his head, just floating. He goes, this is wild. He was just watching, like the river was just taking him downstream.
Wow.
So I volunteered as the I guess politically correct name is a wetsuit peeler, but I do prefer stripper. So because the wetsuit was optional, the business was a little slow in the beginning because we just had people in swim skins that some did need help, but as they were coming out of the water, their faces were just kind of covered with this brown slime from the river, like the silt. So there were a couple of friends of mine that came out. I'm like, wipe your face because you're not going to want that in your photos because it was so visible. It was terrible. So anyway, did lots of good stories from stripper duties, but it was a ton of fun. And that stripper business is like, it's hard work. It was kind of busy towards the end, of course. That's when all of the wetsuits were coming in. But to get those guys out of their wetsuits, some of them were easier than others, but we got everybody done. It was a long transition. They did a great job with carpeting the entire distance. So I think it ended up being like some transitions were showing like 15, 20 minutes because it was like a quarter of a mile from swim exit over to bike transition. So fast forward, logistics on the bike course as a spectator, super difficult to navigate. We spent a lot of time in the car trying to find our athletes. We thought we were going one direction. The roads were shut off. Like there was a lot going on out there. Plus you combine that with Florida traffic and everybody and their brother that's moved here. So super difficult to navigate, but we were able to find them a couple of times by really stupid, dumb luck. And then we got back into town and kind of hunkered down on the run course and found them in a couple different areas. It was about an 8-mile loop, so they had to do that 3 times. Parts of the run course, I did not do a loop with anybody. I just was kind of like running a little bit back and forth in our little area, but I think I've heard a rumor that hopefully for next year the Riverwalk is finished. I think there's some construction going on. So they hoped that it would be finished so they could extend the run along the Riverwalk a little bit more so that it was a lot easier for people to spectate. It was a hot day. Everybody who was out there was, as soon as my athletes started the run, the cloud coverage came over. Wind picked up a little bit, so it did help. But by that time, mean, you're cooked from being out in the sun, the Florida sun. Um, and it was hot. It ended up getting to the upper 80s, which for Florida people, it feels nice this time of year. But if you're coming from the Midwest where you haven't gotten any rides in outside, or coming from anywhere up north, it's really hard to be heat acclimated to come down to Florida to race. So there were a lot of very salty people out there with trying to replenish as quickly as they could. But I had a blast. My athlete crushed it. My friends all had phenomenal days. They crushed it. They had, I mean, really, a lot of the athletes were seasoned. I mean, one of my friends had done 13. I ended up Sherping for a new friend of mine that was her 40th Ironman.
Wow.
Yeah, like very phenomenal. But everybody just knows that you're going to take what you get for that day. And it's not the city's fault. It's not, you can't control the weather. You race what you're given that day. And it was all good. I mean, the finish line was great. The venue was great. We were there until, I don't know. Well, we were hanging out at the finish line. It was well after midnight. But that place was hopping. I mean, I've not seen a finish line that late that has been that active. So shout out to, kudos for what they did.
Did they do
So
a
you
time cutoff?
They did. So this was the other thing that I couldn't. It was hard for me that race didn't start till 7:30 a.m., which seemed late. So cutoff time was officially, I believe I heard like 2:30 a.m. because you have
Oh, wow.
17 hours. So it's not a midnight cutoff because they started a little bit later. But after, we were sitting around all chatting and talking. And the other thing that Ironman has done that I have not ever seen, it's been a while since I've been to an event though. They had a first timer bell. So
Oh, that's
every
cool.
time, so the runners were coming through, they were hitting that. And then as soon as they would hit it, like the crowd would just go absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
So you both have been to inaugural events before. Besides the high energy that you're going to have there, right? And it's a new course and being able to say that, hey, I raced that the first time. What other pros would you give out to listeners to join on to sign up for an inaugural event? What would be some more really good pros that might tip the hand if they sign up or not? Alicia, do you have any?
Well, I don't think it necessarily has to be an inaugural event versus just, any event really. But I was actually just looking up the stats. So, like a typical Ironman has anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 athletes competing, and it's interesting from like when you think about the majors where there could be like the Brooklyn half just happened here in New York City, and there was 30,000 runners. So from but like you still have to go to like the race day pickup the couple days before, whereas like in a triathlon you gotta check your bike in and go to the expo and learn all the rules and um but yeah, I guess for an inaugural one you're just hoping that the name Ironman is that's the thing you have to go by is they put on really great events when you're paying for it, but you're trusting that they're doing like it's an Ironman race, you're going to get an Ironman experience. I guess that would be my best feedback from that. But a race is a race. Like, do your due diligence, knowing what the weather is going to be, make sure your hotel's booked, you're set up. Like, if you're traveling to, I think we'll get to that one next.
Yep.
Whether you're driving versus flying, that's like the go arounds from that. Or if this is like a qualifying race, if this is your A race versus your B race. I guess there's so many like tag alongs we can go. What about you, Anne?
I think there's a lot of people like the unknown, the brand new race, brand new city. It did bring out one of my friends from retirement. So, because she's like, oh wait, I've done the other ones. There wasn't really anything new that had piqued her interest at the Ironman distance. but sometimes a new city will bring out some people who have maybe not considered it for a while. I think in this case, Ironman Jacksonville had, I believe I saw 2,000
2000.
participants. Yeah. So great. I mean, great for an inaugural event. I think people too were probably, I know there's some benefits for an early season race. There's the pros and cons to that too, but uh, people can do their Ironman early in the summer and then they're done, or they can be done for the season. Get the family time back over the summer and do all their training over the winter months.
Mm-hmm. I have a few cons to inaugural events, but what have you come across? And aside from like logistics and course stuff, maybe, but like what are some of the downsides maybe to a new course?
I think logistics really is going to rank number one up there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's not, Ironman knows what they're doing, right? Like Alicia
Mm-hmm.
said, they've done this for a long time. There's a lot of research that goes into a city being chosen. There's a lot of work with local authorities and roads and scoping out. And there's just so much behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, they also don't know what they don't know. And sometimes shutting down bridges and things like that gets really tricky. You can prepare the community as much as possible, but there's still going to be the drivers that are mad because Ironman is there. That doesn't matter if it's an inaugural event or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I think logistics is just the biggest piece of it. Who knows? Next year, maybe the bike course looks completely different. And then those who did the inaugural event will always have the saying of, yeah, but when I first did it, it was so much harder than what you guys get now. So you never know. Maybe they'll keep it the same. Maybe everything was good and that's the only they really have to offer. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
interesting because you're right. It's the first one. So one of the cons, and this is for we'll call it maybe the OCD athlete or the ones that are very, very well prepared or like to have a very specific plan to execute, is it's very hard to, it's not very hard, but it's harder if you don't know the course. If you've never run the course, nobody else has run the course, nobody has, because I do this with my athletes a lot. It's like, let's get the GPX file and let's actually plop it in and we can look at the elevations. We can look at where the course is and everything else, right? And we can try to plan. So, but not having that. So that might be hard for some athletes. It's just the unknown. So now instead of, okay, well, we're going to come up with a pace plan. But maybe at the end of the day, you're just going to go by RPE, right? And you're going to have to do it that way. So I think potentially, and again, it's not necessarily a con. It's just one of those. It's a new race. So if nobody's raced it before, no one's gone out and actually raced the course. And if you don't, I mean, the course change. Right? Like, I don't know if this one did, but you can have all the best laid plans. And like you say, I mean, they get a ruptured water main somewhere on a street and all of a sudden they're altering the course because they have to dig up the road. And that could be the night before and nobody knows. But again, that could happen on any race, right? So I think there's that. It's just really about the pacing potentially, and then just not knowing. I know this wasn't a case for at least for where you were for the race. Sometimes the volunteers, we know volunteers can make or break a race, right? Like you say, Ironman's very good at putting races together, but if they don't have the people to execute it, that potentially could kind of be a downside, right? Like, I know with most of the events I go to, you get the same core group of volunteers kind of at that race, and they help the ones that have never volunteered at a race before. And that really helps out the athletes that way. Your thoughts, Alicia?
Yeah, speaking of like the volunteers, I know New York Roadrunners, because I'm just like this local now. They they have this cool, it's called the 9+1 program. So if you if you do 9 races in 1 year with NYRR, plus you have to volunteer at least one race, you'll get an automatic bib for New York City Marathon. So having
Nice.
those kind of incentives
Love that.
for the locals to volunteer, especially for an Ironman distance where the roads could be shut down for 17 hours. Like, if I was like, I can't leave my neighborhood, like, this sucks kind of thing, that would definitely really turn me down. But looking at the race, I haven't actually looked at the course, but like for that one, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, 3 laps, that sounds terrible. Like, I feel like I would get so in my head. But it's funny, when I do training routes, I can do three loops is like I have my water stations here. It's, it's the known stuff like that. So it's interesting.
I think that is very interesting because, but you picked the routes, whereas this is kind of a route given to you. We do a race. It's the Black Spur Ultra. And if you do the 54K, it's 3 different loops on the ski hill in Kimberley, BC. If you do the 104, you do that twice. And it's just like,
it's like so easy to quit, right?
I just survived, or depending on your training, right? Like, I just finished 54K. I remember that very first climb on loop 1, and I got to do that again. You're right. It gets into your head, right? And that's why, and to be honest, that's why I haven't done the 108 at Kimberley, is because I can do it once. I don't know if I can do it twice.
But
in the same race.
Something you said, JW, about it being like there's no GPX file. There's this, it's the unknown. That's one thing that I said to Stephanie this weekend was, this has been a goal of hers probably since I met her 10 years ago. So she's talked about this for so long, and she's surrounded by, or when we were in Kansas City, like, we had such a big tri group, and she was surrounded by people who had done Louisville and Chattanooga and all of these Ironman events. And her husband has done, I think he's done 4 or 5 now. And what I loved about Jacksonville was that it was her race, that no one else had done that, and no one could put kind of like thoughts in her head or have this comparison about how she did versus they did, or what their race was and the weather and all of those things that can be compared. But this was like her race. All of the focus was on her. Everyone's like, well, what was the venue like? And maybe because of her experience, she'll draw some people back and they'll make a go of it. I don't know if she'll come back next year. I don't know what's going to happen, but that inaugural event was hers as her first. And I love that for her, for that experience, because it's been so long in the making.
Very cool.
I will say another thing is, like, sounding like, in general, a river race, if swimming is your weakness, that's a great race to pick, because it's fast and it's flowy.
That's what,
and, it's
I
one
think
of those,
that's what Ironman's doing, though, is like, and we can go down that
to
rabbit.
more of the bikers and the runners. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people, you're right, like, swimming is their weakness. So there's nothing easy about Ironman. Like, you're still covering the distance. There's nothing easy about it. But we do see those events with river-assisted swims becoming more and more popular. Ironman California, huge draw, because apparently that one's wicked fast. Chattanooga, same thing. Now we've got Jacksonville with a downriver swim.
I think Woodlands Marathon or triathlon is Ironman is a downriver as well.
Yeah, I think that there's some 70.3s. Augusta, blazing fast swim. I know there's one, is it Portland, Oregon? Super fast too. So I think it makes it logistically a little bit harder for the event planning committee, but it also helps in numbers, because people know that, okay, it's 78 degrees. I shouldn't wear a wetsuit, but I'm going to, because I'm going to save my energy later in the day, and I can put my hands behind my head and float down the river. So,
do you think you saw some faster? I mean, you just said that. And do you think there were some faster times because of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So I can't remember what her pace was. And again, it's obviously it's open water compared to the pool. So swims are not comparable. It's hard to compare, but my athlete had her pace was 1:42. per 100 meters. In the pool, I would say she's typically like 2 something.
Mm,
So
okay.
about 15 seconds faster per 100. Some people were coming out at a blazing like 103.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, my
absolutely, it
athlete
definitely assisted.
averages around 155 in the pool and averaged 139 in Chattanooga. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Did you
Definitely is.
count? Did you count that into your pace plan for her?
No, we
No.
didn't have a
Okay.
pace plan for the swim.
Okay.
No, our plan for the swim was get it done. I don't ever put a pace plan because how are they going to know? They're not watching their watch.
Yeah.
They're just, they're just getting it done. The goal in the swim is to get through
Stay
it,
calm.
stay calm, take a deep
Sight.
breath. I tell them, like, when you're taking a breath, look around, look at the bridge, look at the stuff that you're swimming under, that you're swimming by. Like, enjoy the scenery because that's the coolest you're going to be all day. That's the quietest it's going to be all day. And get through it with the least amount of energy expenditure as possible, because I don't want you coming out of the swim completely just wrecked. So we focus more on just that low, steady endurance. It's not a all out anything.
No, that's
It's
fair. And I got a question
yeah.
for both of you then, because I just did this last Thursday in the pool with the tri class. I guess with a downriver swim, there's not a whole lot of buoys to sight, right? Like
Oh,
you
there
just have to
are.
find the final. Is there still?
No,
Okay,
yeah,
because
yeah.
like so for sighting, how many how do you train your athletes then in the pool when you're doing the pool work? Like how many strokes and how do you have them sight? And so that relates because you're saying, yeah, like have a look around, right? And there's the two kind of common ways around the buoys where you can roll over and you can kind of catch that breath, get an extra breath or whatever, and do that little bit of a look around. But so I'm just curious. I mean, because I tell them every 4 to 6 strokes, do your sighting, right? Your crocodile eyes, whatever you want to call it, kind of thing, right?
I think it depends. If I have an athlete that's new and is doing a lake swim, then we do sight about every 4 or 5. How do I coach that in the pool? Same thing. They're going to start to sight just to the other end of the pool, look at the far wall. And then hopefully we can get some open water in and they can learn to sight actually in the open water. If they're doing a river swim, I don't remember how many buoys there were, but they did have, and they did have to catch some buoys because I think I heard they broke loose the night before. But
Oh, no.
they'll have yellow buoys. They had a red buoy at the start, so you had to go out off the dock and then make a left
Okay.
or make a right, whatever it was, make a turn.
Mhm.
And then yellow, smaller buoys down the line. But you also could swim as far or close to those as you wanted to. So in this case, my recommendation would just be find some feet, because you're not going to go too far off course. Find somebody's feet, let them do the sighting for you. Check yourself every once in a while.
Oh, for
But
sure.
it doesn't have to be every 3 or 5 strokes in a river swim. It can be.
Okay, I call that just stay in the bubbles, right? Like you say, and if you can find some feet and just hope that they're not going off course.
Yeah.
Like you say, still track yourself a bit, but
Yeah. With that fast current, I mean, really nobody was going off course. They were all going to end up probably out in the Gulf. No, not in the Gulf, in the Atlantic. Yeah.
Another thing I've done is like, because I know this, especially with my sister, she always swims to the right because she's had rotator cuff issues. So she knows that about herself. And so swimming with your eyes closed, but then when you do sight, you sight, but when your head is down, because it's very easy to follow the line in the pool and I'm swimming straight until you close your eyes and actually start to hit and go off course. So that'll kind of check you and maybe spot some weaknesses that like, oh, you're going this way or you're crossing over. Are you actually hitting, and that's a nice way to kind of actually check in with your form again too.
Yeah, I agree. I was suggesting that I tell them all that. I says, mandatory, get in the habit of sighting. So it just becomes habit, not thought. And then same thing, close your eyes. So you're not following the line. And of course, everybody's like, but what if I go off course? And I said, wouldn't you like to know? Right? Like, cause you're probably not going to see the bottom of the river. You're probably not going to see the bottom of the lake. You're not going to have a line directly to your buoys. Right. So I do like that one as well. It's just close your eyes. And then, even if they don't try to correct it, they at least know about it. I do drift to the right. I do drift to the left. And so I better make sure I look, because if not, I might look and I'm out there all alone for some reason. Oh, very cool. The other thing I know we wanted to get into a little bit was what the destination race is, especially in triathlon. That it's kind of our topic here tonight is logistics, getting your bike there, getting your equipment. If you're going across international borders, I think we want to talk a little bit about that. And then even within that, hotels. I'll ask you this weekend, Anne, did you happen to see the bike tent? Right? Like any mechanics, or was there mandatory bike checks? Probably, I don't know, I guess every event's different. But if somebody needed an emergency repair on their bike, what options do they have at the venue, right? And so we have some trips and ticks for people that are traveling to new places that you may want to think about. That, sometimes people are like, oh, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? Well, we're here to try to help you with that. So, Anne, like, what would you say? Let's say we'll start with that whole the bike thing. Like, how did that look for this weekend?
So Stephanie flew in with her bike. So she had a bike bag. Fortunately enough, they have done this enough times. Her husband's done enough times that he was able to reassemble her bike for her. There was a little bit of an issue with, it was making a little bit of a weird sound. So, mandatory bike check-in was by Friday at a certain time. They went over, assembled her bike. She took it out for a little spin. Went over to the big bike tent and asked if they had some time to just take a quick peek at it. And they did not have anybody look at it. It's kind of a whole other story. But I think the thing you have to remember too is those bike mechanics are, a lot of people book them. They've been there for a long time. They're working hard. It's hard for them. It kind of is their job to fit in emergencies, but it's also very hard. I have never used a bike service on site. If there's ever been an issue, we've always found a little bit of a local bike shop to kind of pop in on. Plenty of other people are doing it too. But that's another avenue that you can use instead of being dependent on the village. So other friends, her husband drove their bikes from Kansas City down to Florida while they flew in. So he loves to road trip. He's like, I'll schlep all of your stuff, which was amazing because they could get there quicker. It was a little bit easier on them than sitting in a car for a couple of days. There are a lot of different ways you can get it there. I've done both. I've flown with my bike. I've driven with it, obviously. I do prefer to drive just because you can throw all kinds of last minute stuff in. I was getting texts up until probably, I don't know, the morning I left of things that they asked me to bring along, like my Normatec legs. They didn't want to fly with theirs, so I threw mine in the car. A bike pump. You don't want to fly with a bike pump, so I threw it in the car. Little things like that if I could help lessen their load and supplement with what I had available, it made it easier for everybody.
How about you, Alicia, with your bike and past events?
Yeah, I will say I love, especially for triathlon, I've never done an international race. And I've driven with my bike. One advice I will say is take a picture of your bike. So if you do have to take it apart, all the settings and stuff like that, use marker to mark your things. I did have an athlete, gosh, this was crazy. She qualified for Worlds in Marbella last year, and they warn you, like in the Facebook groups, join those Facebook groups for those races to get tips when it's not an inaugural race. They said like bike robbery, bike theft is a thing, especially international. So she attached an air tag to her bike and was in the airport and just sees it. And she's going to security, she's going to all the airport people because they said her bag has been lost. And she's like, no, it's not. It's still in the airport. And they literally were able to track it to a van, and they had about 10 bikes in this van getting ready to be lost.
Wow.
And because she had that tag on there, they were able to backtrack, and suddenly it was found. So again, especially taking advantage, I hate to say it, but of like American tourists. I mean, because we're not loved like in a lot of places. So little things like that. I do have like a really good just what to put in your carry-on versus what to check so you can actually race. Like I could probably make a thing and post it on social for us, but
We'll put something into the show notes, and then if anybody wants, we'll create it, and then if they want it, then they just request it, and we can email it to them.
So
okay.
And in your list, I'm sure you have that you cannot fly with CO2. So here's an interesting story too. We were out at like mile 80 of the bike, and we parked and kind of ran up this intersection, and I noticed a guy with his bike underneath the tree. And I said to the cop, I don't know if I'm allowed to offer support. I was volunteering in the morning, but I had said to the cop who was in the intersection, I said, am I allowed to go help him? And he said, he's like, I don't care. Just, go see what he has a flat tire. So we go over there. I'm like, what's going on? And young guy. And he's like, I have a flat tire and I don't know how to change it. I was like, okay. So it turns out he had one tube. That's it. And a multi-tool. One tube and a multi-tool. No idea
levers, no nothing.
No idea how to take his rear wheel off.
Wow.
So we ended up getting his rear wheel off, took the tube out. Adam hands me the tire, and he's like, here, check the tire, because he always checked the inside for anything that's going to puncture the new tube. I found a nice 2-inch slice in his tire through the radials. So I was like, we can't help you. You're going to have to wait for bike support.
Yeah.
So this poor guy had waited and waited and waited. He ended up, he's like, can I use your phone to call my parents to let them know I'm okay? So he called his parents, or called his parents. No one answered. He's like, that's great. So anyway, we were on that corner for probably an hour and a half. 2 vans went by. Bike support came by and said they couldn't help him. I don't know the full story there, but earlier, right before we had gotten there, we had stopped at Starbucks to use the bathroom and get into some like cooler air a little bit. I had bought a Starbucks drink, had the cup with me. We were coming back, and Adam's like, hold on, I have an idea. So he borrowed a knife from the cop. He cut a rectangle out of my Starbucks cup. And he said to the guy, he's like, hey, this is our last ditch effort. This is what we're going to try. So put it inside the tire to make kind of a seal. And then, backing up, I was on the side of the street yelling for anybody like CO2 or a bike pump. A guy stops. He's like, take the pump. It's in my back bag. So I pulled that out. We're like, can we at least take one lever? He goes, yeah, absolutely. So we take his bike pump, his lever. We make this patch for this guy out of a Starbucks cup, and we put his wheel back on. Turns out the kid's from Kansas City, by the way, with another weird turn of events. But we told him, Adam's like, you've got to limp home. You can't, you have 30 miles to go. You can't stand up. You can't hit anything. And if it does pop, because when we inflated it, the radials, there was a bulge there. So he said, you can ride on a flat tire. You're going to destroy your rim, but at least you'll finish. So I put his number into my tracker, and I was watching. And when we saw him on mile 1 of the run, all 3 of us were yelling and high-fiving. And he finished the race in 14 hours and 15 minutes with sitting along the side of the road for an hour and a half.
Good for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
That's
know, but I
amazing.
think that story is a good case in point that the athletes, I think we have to, and I don't know, I mean, I tell all my athletes this anyways, is like, know how to change a basic tire. Like
Absolutely.
on your own bike, know how to change your own tire and carry the very minimum tools that you may or may not need to do this. Get used to maybe assembling your bike in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Right. So practice in your living room. How do I put this together? But yeah, that whole basic, just being able to do the tire, and then just like you say, I mean, if it's only 2 levers, like 1 lever even, it's going to be better than nothing. And then
Do you ask your athletes if they know how to change a tire?
Yeah,
Or if they're
I do.
do you ask them what's in their tire kit? Because this kid
Yep.
had a coach. And I'm like,
Wow.
why didn't your coach ever ask?
But not all
Or
coaches are
not all coaches
right?
do.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
no, I do. And I will ask them, I says, do you know how to change it? Because if you don't, practice. Don't have to be fast. You don't have to
Right.
do it perfect, but can you do it until maybe someone that comes along can help you potentially, right? I mean, this one here sounds, I mean, if the rubber is split, like the tire is split,
was
that's
bad.
kind of extreme, right?
Yeah.
The only other thing I was going to add to, like you were saying, I mean, like you said, those bike mechanics at these events, they're going to be busy, right? Like you said, I mean, how many thousand people were entered to this one?
I think they had like, what did I say, 2,000, 2,500,
2,000,
something like that.
right? So 2,000 potential bikes that could have issues. They're going to be busy. It could be, even if they can get to you, like you say, hey, we're going to help you with emergencies. But I mean, if there's 5 emergencies before yours, you could be 3-4 hours potentially before you can kind of get your bike there. One thing I do suggest to athletes on my rosters typically is, if it's a concern, is call ahead. Know, like you say, those smaller mom and pop shops potentially, or bike shops that are not involved with the venue, and just say, hey, I'm going to be down there for the race. Where are you? Here's my name. Can I call you if I have an emergency? Right. And can you kind of put me maybe on a priority list? Maybe let your techs know, maybe I'll pay you more for the last minute service or something like that, but at least being able to get something fixed. Even like you say, it's a small something not sounding right on the bike can have a huge mental impact on the athlete, just concerned and worried about it, and we'll talk a little bit about maybe the psychology of panic in these new events or events in general, but it's a very real thing. What about hotels? Right? I know we're kind of coming up here shortly on the hour, but the other one too is, could you imagine how busy the hotels are? And
Oh,
do
they're
they,
packed. Yeah.
right? And do they book, like airlines book seats on planes? Right? Like,
Well,
I
you
know I go to
typically,
an event, and if you don't book literally 365 days out for the next year, you don't get a room. And even if you do have a room, it's still not guaranteed until they take money like 30 days before. So how did you guys handle that? Because I know when we were talking off air in the meeting, like you weren't close, but some other people were close, and with the heat and everything else, what were your thoughts on that?
yeah, Ironman typically has a host hotel, but with that, you get host hotel prices.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very expensive. But Jacksonville has a ton of options. I mean, everything was very drivable. That was the good thing. We stayed at an Airbnb that they had booked, and it was probably, I don't know, maybe a 15-minute, maybe 10, 15-minute drive from where we needed to be. The Hyatt was the host hotel. So when I returned my new friend Stephanie, when I returned her stuff to her hotel room, like the Hyatt was hopping that night. I mean, it was, I don't know what time it was, but there was a big old party going on. And that's one nice thing about staying in a host hotel. Like they get it. They do usually a morning race breakfast that they set up really early for the athletes. So there are benefits to being there, but they do sell out fast.
Mm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, and really just, I mean, just don't rely, like, so you have reservations, you line up these bike mechanics and everything else like that, over communicate with them, right? Like, just don't book your hotel, 6 months out and just figure it's all taken care of. Call 30 days out. Hey, do I still have a room? Hey, hey, bike shop, are you still in business? Whatever it might be, kind of thing, right? And then even, hey, I'm leaving next week. The race is next week. My room's still good, is whatever it is that you want, right? Like you said, maybe you're booking cars, rentals. That's another huge one, right? I learned this in a previous life of jobs, is when you make reservations, they're not guaranteed, right? It's just like, hey, we're supposed to have 6 cars here, but if we only, if someone keeps one an extra day, now we only have 5 because we were banking on that one coming. And for me, it was like, if you weren't the first 5 people off the plane to get that car, you weren't getting a car. So still just have your backup plans. It should be part of what I do with all my athletes, is that what if plan. What if the hotel is not available? What if your car is not there? What if something's wrong with the bike? Have all the plans so that it's now not a panic. It's like oh crap, this is an inconvenience, but we already got a plan. Let's go execute that plan for the what if when it happens. Alicia, you were going to say?
Yeah, I will say I made a rookie mistake last year. For my first marathon, it was in upstate New York. It was a very small town, not very many hotels to stay at. And it was like a month out that I'm like, oh my God, we didn't book the hotel. Plus there's a group of girls with us, and you're always like, are they going to cop out the last minute? Are they going to drive?
Mm-hmm.
There's the inconsistency of confirmation. So having that person who's just going to like take charge, maybe that's your person. But online, everything was booked, sold out. So when that happens, call the hotel up and actually talk to a human. You'd be very surprised that they usually always have a couple available and when they don't appear like that online. Real quick though, and I didn't want to like lose my train of thought when we were talking about the bike setup. I'm thinking we got our next topic, but I did a quick Google check of just how many bikers and because I've gone completely tubeless on my mountain bike and my gravel bike, but my road bike does still have tubes. So I was like, I wonder how many people like, so just maybe thinking of like upcoming gear, what people are using now, what size tires, should you ride on to be optimal to today's. When I was talking with my one athlete, he's like, I made my bike 6 ounces lighter and got that proper bike fitting. I was just like thinking on top of my head, like, oh,
Yeah.
like those things do matter though. And in his eyes, he's like, I got the PR because the bike was lighter. And I'm like, well, I think you got the PR because you're fitter, but okay.
No, and that's a very, saying that, bike fitting, like it sounds so like duh, but when you're putting bikes back together, and you mentioned this, put markings. Like, don't worry about the nice paint job on your bike. Like, take a Sharpie. Where's the stem height actually supposed to be from that bike fitting? What's the pitch and everything on the seats? And like you say, if you take pictures of it, I'm famous for this. It's just like, I find something that works really well, I'll take a picture of that setting or that, that mark or something like that. And then here's another hack I also learned too with hotels, because you mentioned you'll talk to a human. That's part of, our segue out into the homework stuff. But it was, hotels typically keep 2 to 3 rooms back. So if they say they're full, they actually still have 2 or 3 empty rooms. And the reason they do that, so if guests experience a problem with their room, they have a new room to send them to. So, water breaks or air conditioning, heating breaks down or something like that. So, but which, if everybody's already checked in for the night and everybody's rooms are okay, it might still be an option for that last minute. Like you say, your one hotel room craps out on you. You still might be able to call the other and just say, what about the emergency rooms? Can I not get one of those if everybody's already checked in? Or can you call me in an hour when everybody's supposed to be checked in? Just a little hack that I learned from doing a lot of travel.
Oh, that would make me so nervous to be doing that though, that close to race day. I was like,
exactly. But I'm saying, like, so if something happened to your room because maybe you forgot to verify, maybe they oversold and everybody else showed up before you did because your plane landed later or something. I agree. I mean, you guys know me, like, there's no way I'm waiting till last minute to plan something.
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Oh.
got to be weeks and weeks out. So we're coming close to time, but is there anything that with these new races, I think there's a bit of higher stress often associated with athletes, coaches, and logistics and everything else, just because of the unknown. Really, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'll tell everybody is, I mean, come down to what's in my control and what's out of my control, right? And if it's out of your control, there's no point in, kicking, swearing, punching, throwing, spitting, doing all this stuff and getting so worked up and angry instead of trying to work on solutions. And for us as athletes, you're going to just start drawing from your energy that you're going to be needing the next day, right? So, the releasing of the cortisol, the epinephrine and everything else, but taxing the CNS, right? So we talked about that fatigue. And if you're fatiguing it with all the stress going to a new event when you don't have to, that's not going to help you on race day. And I can guarantee I'm going to say probably 95% of the time for me personally, the stuff that really bothered me before the event, I look back on it and go, actually, it wasn't that bad. Right. But everything kind of sometimes not everything, but sometimes it feels better, like worse than it really is at the time. So just have those what if plans, have a plan, have a backup plan. This is the emergency management specialist in me, right? Like the what if this doesn't work out? What's my plan Z for, if the first three don't work out? And then I think you two are the same as me. I always tell my athletes, right? Call a friend. You have the lifeline. You've got the whatever. If you're going to these events solo and stuff like this comes up, reach out, right? Maybe we can help talk you off the ledge. Maybe not. Who knows? Everything's going to be different. It depends on what's happening at that time. But any other thoughts? Because that's part of the glycogen tax, I call it. Can we radically adapt? Can we pivot and things like that? Anything else for mindset, let's say, before we kind of hit into the homework or in general on inaugural events that you'd like to throw out there?
Well, I have two things.
Mhm.
So first, don't let one race define you. So this is why I kind of like to say race often. So if you have a bad race, like the journey leading up to it that race doesn't mean it was all for nothing. So that's why I like to throw in a few training races, a few B races to practice, to work on those jitters, to do well essentially. Because anything can happen on race day. The weather can change. An event like a portion could get canceled. They could, I know last year at Cape Town Marathon, it got canceled the night before because of wind, of all things. Like, who would have known? And then number two is if you're traveling for a destination race, one, stay later. Okay. Arrive, race, and then vacation. Don't vacation and then race, because that's going to, you're not going to be able to truly vacation. But, don't also race and then go home and go back to work on Monday. You take a few days afterwards, recover. In Jacksonville, it's like a amazing place to be at right now.
Yeah.
Go to the beach, recover, sleep in. I think I've seen that way too much of you're spending all this money to get there. Why not add 1 or 2 or 3 more days to it and enjoy that.
And we talked about this in previous episodes. I mean, on an Ironman, definitely a minimum 7 to 10 days recovery. So why go back to work and
I didn't even go back to work today. I was tired.
I don't know. I think the volunteers sometimes work harder.
I'll tell you what, man, that stripping was not for the weak of heart. It was a lot of work. There were a couple times I took a step back. I'm like, ooh, but no, you're right. That
video snip I saw, man, you were in the zone.
I was
you were just peeling away.
So cool.
You know what? I had a job to do, and I hope they hire me for next year. But you're right. It's take the time to enjoy it. Yesterday was nice. We got up after only a very few hours of sleep and hit the village and then went out and had breakfast and kind of just took our time. They ended up spending the full day just going out to, she's like, I want seafood and I want to have a drink and I want to go to the beach and do things that she couldn't do before the race. So, yeah, absolutely. Spend some time on the backside of it.
I have one more caveat too. And this is, I don't know if this is necessary for Ironman races or even triathlon, but I have my brother-in-law's getting ready to do BC bike race in Vancouver Island, British Columbia.
Okay.
It's an 8-day stage race. And so I'm talking altitude. And I know this is probably nothing to do, but you're like, where am I going with this? It's one of those things that if you either want to get there 10 to 14 days early to adapt to altitude, or like less than
Or
24 hours before the state.
yes,
Yeah, like right before. So that could also play a factor in your race. So that's like the one caveat I say is either arrive really early and, obviously, or arrive right before the start. For when it comes to like altitude. I don't know if that also applies to heat, but definitely altitude.
Well, I'm going through this with a few athletes currently, and I just had it in my newsletter two ago, something like that. Anyways, it's easier to adapt to the heat, right? So you can come. What I suggest is you'll come out of training, do whatever your training run, that's whatever, and then go into a hot tub or hot shower. Like preferably like a hot bath or something like that, for 10, 15 minutes. And your body, if you do that, the body thinks it's still in heat. And then so it'll start to increase the plasma volume in your blood, and the plasma volume increases what helps cools us in those heat changes. You can do that relatively quick. I believe, don't quote me on this, I'd have to fact check myself, but I believe you can do that in about 5 days. Right. So it's quicker to do that heat acclimation that way. I have one athlete, Ricky, he loves his saunas. And so we kind of do this as well. I mean, not that he needs to do that in Texas, because it's pretty warm there anyways, but he does, he likes that. And so he gets that heat acclimation. In all the science stuff that I have read, if you want true altitude acclimation, it's about 21 days to increase the amount of red blood cells and whatnot to adjust to that higher altitude. So that's why I kind of agree more like get there the day before and kind of ride that coattail. And you probably, unless you have 21 days to be there and to train, this is where that might be the one time where it's like, you're not there to vacation, you're there to train, go train. Cause I think we see this with Kona, that they tend to get there pretty early, and Kona starts a lot of their stuff pretty early. And I dare to say it probably has a little bit to do with that acclimation opportunity, at least for the athletes.
we had a lot of athletes, a lot of professionals that would come out to Kansas and train out there before Kona, because the conditions were very similar. But I will also leave this cliffhanger as we wrap up here. Female heat acclimation is different than males, and we can talk about that at a later date. But females are different than males, so we can, yeah, we're all different.
Awesome. So we can't control the growing pains of a first year venue, right? They're going to be there, right? However, we can absolutely control how you insulate your expectations or your execution against that, right? And so being prepared, have a plan, in your control, out of your control. Anticipate it and roll with it. You're not the only one that's going to be feeling it. The other 2,000 racers will say at Jacksonville, if there was an issue, all of them would be feeling it as well at the same time. So it's not just you. Fix the logistics early. As Alicia mentioned, talk to humans. Don't rely on electronics and everything else, and verbally confirm everything. Check on your bike checks or bike stores. Protect your energy. So don't stress about the stuff out of your control. Save all that energy. Save all that for the race. If you are racing a destination race or an inaugural event this season, do your audit or your triage audit this week. So go out, confirm, talk to a human. Do I have a room? Maybe you want to look up the bike shops. Maybe you want to check your entries. Maybe you want to go back to the website and see if any of race day logistics for the athletes have changed. I can tell you countless times I've gone to venues and it's just like, but this is not what the website said. I'm supposed to be over here. Well, they changed it. You're on the other side of the lake. Okay, great, right? We can miss buses. I had an athlete that went to Boston and they put them on the wrong bus, right? And so deal with it, right? Still executed because you have a plan. All right. So that's your homework. If you have any kind of destination or inaugural, even in your own race, you're going somewhere, verbally check it all out. I'm Coach JW. Anticipate the inaugural hiccups and fit the training into the chaos. See you on the trails.
You're amazing.
Keep on training.
That's a wrap for this week on the Endurance Balance. If you enjoyed the conversation, do us a huge favor. Hit that follow or subscribe button on your podcast app right now. It's the best way to support the show. And hey, we want to see your chaos. So come find us on Instagram at The Endurance Balance and drop us a DM. For Coach Alicia and Coach Ann, I'm Coach JW. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the trails.